Okay, so the plan that we did the other day was for this question: how does Rear Window force its audience to question the values and roles expected of characters by their society? And the things that we kind of found interesting about this question was the word force. Do they force the audience to kind of question values and roles, or do they kind of encourage us to? You know, one of the things when you are looking at the questions that will be given to you on the exam, one of the things to really think about is like playing with elements of the question and kind of questioning bits of the question. So a lot of people, like the majority of people who get this question, will just kind of go, okay, force its audience to question the values. But if you kind of go, ooh, I can play with that word force, and go, no, they don't force us. They encourage us to question things and examine that. That's a really interesting way of interpreting the question, right? And examiners like that because obviously they're reading thousands of these essays. So if you write something a little bit interesting, a little bit different, then you already stand out a little bit. So we thought that was an interesting thing that we could explore. And we also kind of went, questions the values and roles expected by the characters. That obviously, that word expected is a very loaded word. We see that in Lisa, when Lisa introduces herself to us, but also to Jeff. He says, is this the same Lisa that, never wears the same dress twice? And she says, only because it's expected of her. So that's that connection there with that word. Not that you would necessarily have to use that quote, but I think examiners are kind of funny. They do these sorts of things to like hold out a little bit of a hand to you and go, can you see what I'm doing there with that word? That's not just any word I picked. They're kind of doing that for you. It's the same like, when before a question, they'll have like a quote before it and then a question, and you're like, why did they put the quote there? Like, I could just ignore the quote and just answer the question. Don't, because the quote is like kicking you in the right direction. It's going, this quote has something to do with this question. Work out what it is and talk about it. Okay? So, the arguments that we decided to go for were these top three. We kind of came up with 5 ideas, and the way that we kind of looked at this question was that we kind of info dumped, didn't we? We kind of came up with all of these cool ideas that we went, oh, you could talk about this, you could talk about this, you could talk about this, and then we kind of picked the 3 that we felt kind of worked the most nicely with one another. So we decided that we were going to do a paragraph here about Lisa and Torso. Now, you don't want to write character-based essays because they're boring. You want to kind of go ideas. So we kind of grouped Lisa and Torso, and we decided to go with this argument. Hitchcock encourages, don't worry, you'll get a copy of this, so don't feel like you have to like scribble it down really quickly. I've already sent you a copy of this, so you've got it. Hitchcock encourages the audience to question the roles and expectations of women. However, there are aspects where Hitchcock doesn't question but reinforces social expectations. So we were going to do one paragraph on women's expectations, roles, what they're expected, and that Hitchcock kind of encourages us to question some, but also kind of reinforces others, which is kind of playing with that idea of forces the reader. Then the second argument was going to come from the ideas that we had here, and it was Hitchcock questions society's value placed on marriage. Shows marriage is detrimental to relationships and that it's much better to live in sin happily, which we see from Lisa, because obviously Lisa doesn't have the ring at the end. I'm actually wearing my ring for once. She's not wearing the ring at the end, but they are happy. Whereas, the Thorwalds obviously doesn't end up too happy. The newlyweds don't end up too happy. But, living in sin seems to be the way to go, which is obviously, when you look at the question, says, questions the values and roles expected by society. Society did expect people to be married before they moved in together. So he's definitely encouraging us to question there. And then, however, so this was my third paragraph, and I talked about last lesson how A however paragraph is a really great third paragraph, a final kind of paragraph, where you kind of take a bit of the question and you flip it on its head. And you go, oh, but what about this? Did you think about this with the question? And often with questions, they give you, what they have in like computer games is like Easter eggs. So questions will often have an Easter egg in them, like a little kind of, like a little surprise that you could kind of play with. So for instance, this one, we're saying playing with that idea of forcing us to question, and we're going, no, he doesn't force us to question society's ranking of one another. So even though he does encourage us to question, whether marriage is right, whether we treat women correctly, he doesn't encourage us to question the way that society kind of ranks people in terms of the social worth of people. So married people are at the top of the food chain along with bachelors, whereas unmarried women with no kind of prospects are kind of the lowest of the low. He doesn't force us to question that. And you could even throw in something about, I know I've talked with my class a little bit about the black woman on the telephone, the babysitter, and he's certainly not encouraging us to question the way that, African American people are considered by white society. In that, he's definitely reinforcing some stereotypes there of, unintelligent, working very kind of domestic labor sorts of jobs, with that southern twang. There's some really kind of heavy stereotypes going on there that you could discuss. Anyway, so that was the piece that we came up with. Now, what people wanted to look at today was how to get depth into their paragraphs, that they weren't finding that their paragraphs had enough kind of meat to them. So what I thought we could do is have a look at one of these paragraphs and kind of play with them a little bit and explore how to get more depth. Are we happy with doing that? Yeah? Okay. Which one would you like to have a go at? Which one's the hardest? Look, I think this one has probably the most depth to it. When we were planning this, we definitely agreed that these two paragraphs would definitely be our meatiest paragraphs, that we would have one very big paragraph, two big but not as big paragraph, and then our third would kind of be the shorter of the two paragraphs. Remembering that, all paragraphs don't have to be like the same length. Sometimes you have a really great point that's going to take up lots of space. And what I would be doing is kind of going, okay, well then I can't afford to take 3 big bites. I can afford to take 1 huge bite, 1 medium-sized bite, and a little bite. Or I can take 4 decent-sized bites, if I've got 4 great ideas. But, I have to kind of think, I've only got 90 minutes. This is a best-of series. It's not everything I know. Okay, but let's try this one. Let's do this paragraph. This is going to be my paragraph. Now, so the first thing I would say, if you are somebody who hears often that you write paragraphs but they have no depth to them, is, are you coming up with a interesting enough idea? Like, is your idea meaty enough? Does that make sense? So for instance, this is quite a meaty idea, isn't it? That like we're going to talk about the expectations of women. However, we're going to also talk about how he reinforces some stereotypes. That's a very meaty idea. In fact, you could probably write a whole essay about that in and of itself. I'm going to try and sum it up in one paragraph. I'm giving the highlights series. Okay, so I'm choosing a really meaty idea. I'm not going small, I'm going big. I'm going big ideas. I think a lot of people run into this problem when they write character-based paragraphs. When they don't have depth, they're often only writing about one character per paragraph. Because, you could interpret this question, forces the audience to question the values and roles expected of characters, and you could do a paragraph on Lisa, a paragraph on Jeff, and then a paragraph on Miss Lonely Heart, right? And if you did that, yeah, you'd probably pass, but like there's not going to be a lot of depth to it because your whole essay has only talked about 3 characters when, you know, there's what, a dozen of them. You know, you're really limiting yourself and what you can talk about. So when you choose to talk about ideas per paragraph and have arguments rather than characters, you'll find that you have more to talk about. So that would be my first thing is, you know, make sure you've got a good, solid idea to talk about. The second thing is probably, I would say, explanations. That's the bit that people really kind of stinge out on. So we'll have a look at that. All right, so let's say that this is my paragraph. I'll also kind of just nick the question so that we've got it there so we can see it. If I can use a computer, which obviously I can't. Forget about it. All right. I'm just going to stick this here so that I've got it. Because sometimes having the question is useful. I can refer back to it and stuff. All right. So what could be my topic sentence for this? If I'm saying Hitchcock encourages the audience to question the roles and expectations, however, there are aspects, that's a big mouthful. I want short, sharp, punchy sentences, very clear, particularly in my topic sentence. I want no ambiguity in my topic sentence. Very clear, understandable, this is what you're arguing. That's really important when we're talking about exams because they're taking like 2 minutes per read. They're skim reading your exams. I'm sorry, that's shit for you, but they are. They're spending like 2.5 minutes to read your piece. They're going, yeah, 6. Next. For their 2.5 minutes. Yeah. Look, I'll be honest though, your SACs though, I'll probably spend 20 to 30 minutes per. So if that makes you feel better, because I'm looking for marks. Do you know what I mean? Whereas an examiner is going, I have to mark it out of 10. I don't have to give any feedback. I'm just punching a number. I'm not saying it's fair. I don't make the game. I teach you how to play it. And the way to play it is make your topic sentence super clear, super punchy, and using keywords so that they know you're answering the question. Just like, you know, in like business studies and legal, where you've got to use certain terms. If you don't use those terms, you're wrong, even if your answer's right. Same kind of with English. Like, use those keywords so that they go, they're answering the question. Good. Or synonyms. You don't have to use those words, but like, make sure it's very clear that this connects. So, let's see. Let's go with something like Hitchcock presents the world of the feminine through a complex lens that both challenges and conforms to, I can't type, conforms to society's expectations. Yeah? Oh, the perth. Hitchcock. There. Okay, so Hitchcock presents the world of the feminine, as in women. It's good to kind of have like fancy phrases that you just like have in your pocket, or fancy words that are a good substitute. So for instance, like question the values and roles expected. That's like a very stereotypical question that you would get, like asking about like expectations of men and women and stuff like that. So words like conform rather than challenge or question, it's a useful word, right? It sounds a little bit fancier, you sound a little bit smarter, you're not any smarter, but it's a useful word, right? Start making these word banks, and then when you're writing your drafts, have that smart person word bank next to you, and then write a little bit, and then find places where you can maybe swap some in. Yeah, because the more you use those words, the more likely it is you're going to remember them on the assessment. Hitchcock presents the world of the feminine through a complex lens, which means it's a complicated answer. He kind of does, but he kind of doesn't. Because what you don't want to do is, so like lots of kids write, he both challenges and questions, and it's like, it just sounds bad and it sounds contradictory. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, so something like through a complex lens, it's acknowledging that like, this is going to be a tricky answer. I'm going to say a bit of both. That both challenges and conforms. As in, like, he does challenge things, he does conform. Conform means, like, stick to what everybody else does, to society's expectations. Okay, make sense? But also, look how close I'm hanging to that question. I'm very close to the question. I'm not using its words, but I'm basically using its words. That's a really nice thing to do. They like that because A, you're using your own language, but B, you're clearly answering the question. And they love that because it makes marking for them easy because they mark out of 10, right? So 10 is obviously, that's the best in the state. 0 is, that was a piece of shit. Usually if you get a 1 or a 0, it's because you have no knowledge of the text. You have no concept of grammar and spelling. You might have vomited on the page for a bit. And we were like, what is this? Is this English? We're not sure. It's, or you didn't, so like a 0, often zeros are, they didn't write anything. They didn't do that section. Which sadly happens more often than I would like to admit. Kids don't get to a section, which is really sad. It's really sad, but it's also kind of dumb because, like, just stop writing a section, move to the next section. Once that hour hits, that essay is dead to you. You don't know her, you leave her behind, you move on to the next one. It's too late for her. That's why there's no point kind of like lingering on one. You've burnt that bridge, it's done. Like, you got to just leave it behind and move to the next one. Because you're better off writing 2 half-assed pieces than one amazing piece and nothing on the other one. Getting 2 4s is better than getting a 6 and a 0. Anyway, so Hitchcock presents the world. So that is my topic sentence. And I am absolutely slaughtering it with keywords. Then I obviously need to present evidence. Now, obviously we have moved past the point where we just like vomit a quote without any context. You're putting a quote, blend it with a little bit of scene discussion. So, you know, and not retelling the story. Obviously, we've all seen the film. You don't need to tell us what happens in the film. You don't need to go, Jeff is a photographer. His girlfriend is Lisa, who is a fashion person. We know. We know. Assume that the person who's reading your essay knows the story. We know it. We just don't know what any of it means. So your job is to kind of go, you know that scene where this happens? Okay, that means this. That's your job, not to tell me what the storyline is. I know it. Okay? So even just jumping in by going something like, in the scene where ... Okay? Where Lisa presents herself to the audience and Jeff as, what is she? Lisa, what's her middle name? Carol Fremont, right? By turning on the lights, right? I'll start with something a bit more interesting. Hitchcock introduces the audience to Lisa in a formal way by having her turn on the lights while announcing her name as Lisa Carroll. Carroll with an E? Oh, what do you think? Is she a girl with an E on the end? Nah, that looks yuck. Fremont. She would be too classy. While doing this, Lisa is, what do you call it when it's like a full shot? Where you can see like head to toe. Oh. Yeah, a long shot, yeah, is, I don't want to say exposed, that's wrong. Captured, that's nice. From head to toe in a long shot, displaying her haute couture outfit along with her perfect figure and face. All right, so, be good if I could type, but it's never been my skill. All right, so while doing this, Lisa is captured from head to toe in a long shot, displaying her haute couture outfit along with her perfect figure and face. So see how I haven't had to go, Lisa is a fashion designer who is currently dating Jeff and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I haven't needed to do any of that. They already know the story. They've seen it. They know it better than you. They just don't know what any of it means. It's your job to explain what all this symbolizes. What's the significance? Okay? So, I've given my little piece of evidence there. And notice that, yes, I do have a quote. Love that for me. But I've blended it with a little scene discussion to kind of set it up. I haven't just gone, Lisa says, Lisa Carroll Fremont. I've kind of set it up by talking about what's happening in the scene when she gives that quote. Okay? And I've also blended a little bit of cinematics. I'm using the kind of cinematic stuff too, aren't I? Because I'm talking about the long shot, how it captures her, her whole outfit. And I'm also talking about her mise en scène, her costume, and obviously herself. Do you want to connect? Do you want me to put it on anyway? Or is it annoying? It's okay, don't do it. Where am I up to? Yeah. So I'm kind of using a whole bunch of different forms of evidence. And that's how you should use evidence. Don't kind of go, I'm just going to use a scene, I'm just going to use a scene discussion here. I'm just going to use a quote here. Try and blend them together. Make them work together, because it shows the marker that you understand that all of these elements of the film work together, that they don't work in isolation, they work together. Yeah, because that's what a piece of art does. It works all together. Okay? So, now I need to move into my explanation. Why have I presented that little piece of information? Well, why have I? Why did I pick that? How is that relevant to Hitchcock presenting the world of the feminine through a complex lens which challenges and conforms to society's expectation? Is it conforming or is it challenging when she does that? When she goes Lisa Carroll Fremont and she shows herself off? She's conforming. Women are meant to be beautiful. That's her job. But then she says, only because it's expected of me. So that's what I'm doing, can you see? That's going to be my next piece of evidence when I layer my evidence. So I'm going to present this bit of evidence about her going, Lisa Carol Fremont, look at me, cutie pie. And we're like, good. That's what a woman's supposed to be. But then she then flips it and challenges it in the next sentence by saying, only because it's expected of me. And we go, so he's doing both. Yep. Mm-hmm. Well, a woman is supposed to she's supposed to be the lightness. You know, a woman was supposed to be kind of like the nice thing that the husband comes home to at the end of the day. She does light up his life. She's just not very smart. That's what a woman's supposed to be. You know, this pretty, beautiful thing that floats in and makes you happy. And then cooks you dinner, and then does your cleaning, and then serves you a drink. Yeah, I know. What a life we're missing out on. Gee. Well, you could definitely look at it like that, yeah, that she introduces herself, although she's kind of introducing herself to Jeff in this scene, not necessarily us. We just happen to do it because we're being the voyeur and watching them, like the creeps we are. All right, let's see. Okay, so now we're up to explanation. Now, let me show you a trick. Now, this is something, if you've been in my class before, you've heard of these before, but if you haven't been in my class before, welcome. These are what I like to call the 4 questions of explanation. They're very, very useful if you are somebody who never knows what to write in your explanations. If you're like, I don't know what to say, it does the thing. It does it. These questions are really useful because they prompt you to explain what your evidence means. They're not for everyone. Some people do it quite naturally. Sometimes you need all 4 of the questions. Sometimes you just need 3 of them. Sometimes you use 2 of them, whatever. They're more a guide. A way to remember them is WHA. What, how, author, relevant. So what does the evidence show? How does it show it? What's the author saying by showing it? And how is this relevant to your argument? That last one is really useful because it encourages you to, 1, use keywords from the question, which we love. The more times you're using those keywords, the better. I would be trying to throw them into every explanation. But 2, they make sure that you are not wandering off the path, which I know some of us do sometimes. It's okay. Do you need to go? Oh, okay. I thought you were like, can I go? Hi, Daniela. Have a gorgeous one. So they can be really, really useful if you're someone who wanders off the path. You know, when they get to their explanation and they're just like talking schmack and they're just like, oh, this was not where I thought this was going. Whoops. They can be useful because they kind of keep you on a tight schedule. So they're the questions. What does the evidence show? How does it show it? What's the author saying by showing this? And how is this relevant? What, how, author, relevant. Wah. All right. And I can put this in the next, you know, like I can send you this poster. So you can print it on your wall, print it out, put it on your wall, admire it. Next time you're writing an essay, I'm sure a certain brother of yours had it up on his wall at some point. You're like, what is that lame poster for? But yes, very, very useful 4 questions. Sorry, I can see people writing them down, so I don't want to flick off yet. Is the aircon on? Can we put it on? Yeah, I'm dying. Wow. Good God. All right. Yeah, I'm schwitzing. It's hot. Whew. All right. Have you got lunch? Just eat it. I don't mind. Have you got your license? Oh, I was like, oh, wow, that's early. Oh, do you? Oh, that's very exciting. That's very exciting. Hang on, wasn't your brother also very early on? Oh, that's not too bad. That's pretty early. It's still pretty early. Yeah. Hang on, so do you have to drive this one home then? Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Hang on. How long? How long have you had it? That's so exciting. I hope you're being careful on those Kinglake roads. Oh, okay. Aren't you? Oh, no, you're Whittlesea, aren't you? Yeah. Yep. Okay. Yeah, Kinglake roads, then they're not mucking about. All right. Let's have a look. Okay, so I'm going to use WA just so that you can kind of get a feel for how I would use it. So, the first question is, what does the evidence show? Well, what does it show? What does this evidence show? Yeah, but more basic than that. What does it show? Too quick. Okay, what does it literally show? It shows Lisa doing what? Good. It's showing her off. It's showing her appearance. It shows that she is this beautiful, perfect woman, right? The epitome of what we should all want to be. We should aspire to be Lisa, right? I mean, who doesn't? Let's be honest. Okay, so by presenting Lisa in this way, and even by choosing Grace Kelly as the actress to play Lisa, Hitchcock gives the audience a woman who is the epitome. I never can spell this right. Did I get it right? Yeah, I did. The epitome of... Oh, damn it. I thought I had it this time. No, it's E. I always think it's O. It's not. It's E. Sorry. Who is the epitome of feminine perfection. Epitome means like the top. The peak. Yes. Okay, so that's what the evidence shows. Okay. I might even go, the shot shows that Lisa is slim, beautiful, young, and wealthy. Really, essentially. She's wearing a haute couture gown. And anyone who knows anything about fashion knows that dress is worth a ton. A ton. And wealthy. Right? The shot shows that Lisa is slim, beautiful, young, wealthy. Okay. Then, how does it show this? What about this shot shows this? It's the combination of Lisa the actress, which I've just mentioned, like Grace Kelly. Like you chose Grace Kelly. Like you could have picked any old hag on the lot to play Lisa. You picked Grace Kelly, who at that time was like the pick. Yeah. She was like the most beautiful woman in the world. hence why she married a prince. Whatever. She married the Prince of Monaco. Yeah, who was not very good looking, but hella rich. So, yeah. And then she died in a car accident. Whatever. But, like, later. Yeah. They had, like, 4 or 5 kids. And then she died in a car accident. Yeah. But, like, apparently they were very happily married. So, like, good for them. Move the... Okay. All right. Oh, I hate this thing. Why does it do that? Okay. Okay. Yeah, the Queen's got COVID. Apparently she's fine, but, like, I mean, she's, like, nearly 100, so... Yeah. There used to be conspiracy theories that the old Pope, you know, the one we had before this one, Benedict, that he was, like, dead for, like, years, and that they were just, like, Weekend at Bernie, like, propping the guy up and just being like, yeah, he's still alive. Just, like, hanging, like deodorizers around him. I don't know. He did look dead, like, but he looked dead before he got there, so I don't know. He was not a good-looking man. Benedict Ratzinger. He didn't get the job for the looks. Ooh. Not like Lisa. All right. Poor old thing. He's still alive, they say. Pardon? Probably. Yeah. I did once have a kid in a history test say that he went to Japan, so maybe the kid knew something we didn't. I don't know. Alternate endings, man. The shot shows that Lisa is slim, beautiful, young, and wealthy. It is a combination of her gown, makeup, and Kelly's physicality. Look at me being polite about it rather than saying, and because she's hot, that attribute to this message. Right? So I've said, what does the evidence show? How does it show it? Then my next question runs into what you guys said about conforming. Right? Because I want to talk about what is the author trying to say by showing this? And he's trying to say what society says, that women, their worth comes from their beauty and their youth, their looks, their weight, all of the physical things, not what's upstairs. By Hitchcock, presenting, I don't want to use presenting, I need a different word from presenting. Exhibit, I love that. Lisa in such a way. He encourages his audience to conform to the 1950s value that 1950s, sorry, what were you going to say? Homogeny. That's great, but it doesn't go with this. I love that word though. The 1950s belief that a woman's value was in her looks rather than the content of her character. Right. So, by Hitchcock exhibiting Lisa in such a way, he encourages his audience to conform to the 1950s belief that a woman's value was in her looks rather than the content of her character. right? Which actually kind of hits both of those last two questions. What is the author saying by showing this, and how is it relevant to your argument? Because the question was about, does it like challenge or conform to the expectations of 1950s society? Yeah. So can you see this is all explanation? Hang on, I should do it in different colors, shouldn't I? I should color code. Okay, so this is my evidence. This is my explanation. I've got double the amount of explanation than I do evidence. I've really wrung every little bit out of what I've presented. Okay, which is really important when you are in the exam, because in the exam you don't have time to do 5, 6 examples per paragraph. You just don't have that time. So what you want to do is give great evidence and wring it dry. Get everything you can out of the pieces that you have time to present. See ya. So yeah, explanations, very important. And obviously explanations show your understanding of the text. Any monkey can tell me something that happened in the story, but can you describe in detail what it means? That's the real trick. Does that make sense? That's where your money is in terms of marks. That's where we're getting value. Okay. So then what I would do with this paragraph is I would give another piece of evidence. Why has it done that? Go back. Thank you. I would give another piece of evidence, and I would probably use that bit that we were using before, the expected of me. Yeah, and I think that they would like that because obviously it goes with the question so well. So I would go something like, however, despite, no, never say however, despite, that's terrible. Despite this, because however and despite do the same thing. Despite this initial message, Hitchcock then, yes, sorry, I should do it in the right color. And I maintain we need more highlighter colors. We need more highlighter colors. What are they doing to us? You can't. You can only change the color. You can change, yeah, you can change the actual letters, but you can't change the highlighter. How have you got pastel? Oh my God. No, because we don't have time. We only have 15 minutes left. But I'm curious because, like, it does my head in that we don't have enough highlighter colors. So it's on Word. It's not. Not on PowerPoint. It's not because look, like if you go here, you've got like limited options. The poo. Actually, the poo color is sometimes used. Because there's no other colors. Despite this initial message, Hitchcock then, how would I do it? Come on, give me what you got. I want to lead into that bit about like just because it's expected of her. You can change the start of it if you want. Challenges. Or how about because like I don't know if it's as strong as like challenges the social expectation or rebuts it, but I would use it for other bits. He kind of hints that it's like, you know, maybe there is, you know, maybe she's only doing it because she has to, you know. So then hints, maybe, suggests, like that, suggests that perhaps Lisa's conformity to these social requirements are merely performative means she's performing. Yeah, like she's doing it because she has to. Yeah. Are merely performative. So, for instance, when your teacher tells you off because, you know, you've got a 1 cut instead of a 3, they're doing it because it's performative. They have to. It's part of the expectation too. Rather than like they have a genuine interest in your haircut. They don't have a genuine interest in your haircut. They really couldn't care less what your hair looks like, but it is a performative duty that we have. Does that make sense? That's the word performative. By having her quip, do you know that word, quip? It's like a smart little retort. I like the word quip too. It's just fun to say. Quip. That she only dresses this way because it is expected of. Actually, this one works really well because she says her. If she said expected of me, then obviously we would be able to change it, use the square brackets and change it. But she actually does say her. She speaks in the third person. So problem solved. Notice that the way that I present that quote is a embedded quote. I don't just kind of go, she says that, boop, 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 boop. I say, you know, having her quip that she only dresses this way because it's expected of her. I blend it into my own language so it looks fancier. It sounds nicer. Okay? That's definitely expected at a Year 12 level, that you're blending your quotes. Okay? Then I would launch into my explanation. And doing the same thing. What does the evidence show? What does her saying that show? You know, that she doesn't feel that that represents her accurately, that she's merely going through the motions. How does it show that? Because she uses the word expected. Knowing that, highlighting that she understands the social expectation. And then what is the author saying by showing it? See how useful it is to just really kind of get mileage out of, it makes mountains out of molehills. Like, this is such a little quote that could be just explained in one sentence, but you don't want to explain it in one sentence because then it doesn't have any value to you. You want to really get your money's worth out of it, especially if you're someone who's not so great at remembering evidence. You know? With the depth? I think time. Yeah, kind of. And I think particularly if you're somebody who finds themselves in that situation where they kind of go down a rabbit hole and go too much detail into something, the questions can be useful because they kind of cut you off at a point where you're like, I've said all I can say about that. But also make sure that you are very rigid on your timing and going, okay, well, if we've got an hour to write this essay, I can only write the intro for 10 minutes. I can only write each paragraph for 15 minutes. I need 5 minutes to proofread. You like, be stringent on yourself and work to time and go, okay, well, if we start this SAC at 3:30, by 3:40, I need to have this done. By 3:50, I need this done. Like, some people need that amount of rigidity so that they can get to the end. If that's you, then do it. Set yourself a timeline and go, this is what I'm working. And most, at the exam, most people have a timeline like that they go, I'm going to spend 5 minutes on intro. I'm going to spend 15 minutes on my first paragraph. My second paragraph's only give me 10 minutes. Like, they actually work to the minute because they only have an hour to write an essay. So they have to work to the minute. So, yeah, you know. Yeah. Yeah. And I would say even with your drafts, maybe work to time. So if you kind of go, all right, well, I'm going to write a draft, I'm going to write a paragraph, I'm probably going to spend 20 to 30 minutes per paragraph. Don't give yourself any more time than that because it's setting an unrealistic expectation of what you're going to do in the SAC. Yeah. especially if you're somebody who struggles with timing. Yeah. All right. Now, do we want to do the explanation for this, or you feel like you're okay? You're nodding, shaking? Okay. Nodding, shaking? What are we doing? Oh, did you pick up your draft? Oh, yeah, you did. Oh. Just one of them days. I'm so glad I caught that face on nice and close. You're welcome. Yeah. You know the worst bit? So all of my friends, because none of my friends, well, some of my friends are teachers, but a lot of my friends aren't, they know this channel exists. And so, yeah, so they love getting like little screen grabs and just sending it to me. I'm like, thanks. And you also go, do you not have like an actual job to do? Like, don't you have like real work? No. The answer is no. They have. Yeah, they'll hear me right now. They know I'm talking about them. They know. And they'll probably screen grab this and go, ha ha ha. And I'm like, get back to your actual important jobs. Like, you guys like work for the government and stuff. Like, you are important people. Anyway, I just teach people how to write stuff. Like, that's not important. All right. To start this initial message, okay, so let's do an explanation. Oh, sorry, this should be green. Green. Okay. Yes, is it getting too small? My bad. She's, yes, she's aware. All right, I'm gonna take it to the next PowerPoint slide to make it easier to read. There we go. All right, Lisa's announcement that being attracted is expected of her demonstrates that she is not only is she aware of the social rules that confine women, but also that she needs to conform to them. The phrasing of this statement with its inclusion of the word expected implies that Lisa does not agree with the pressure that is put on women to fit this idea of feminine perfection. Right? So I've done what does the evidence show? How does it show it? Where I started really pulling at the particular word choices. That's me going, how does it show it? And then I'm going with Hitchcock. This then implies that Hitchcock too believes this is an unfair and unrealistic expectation that puts pressure on women an idea that certainly challenges 1950s gender. I want to use the word expectation again. I feel like I've used it so much. Hang on, sorry. Expectation, what could I say? Value, what else have you got? Come on, synonymy. Assumptions, gender, it's kind of like rules, isn't it? Rules? I don't want rules, but I want something like rules. And this is why it's really rules, instructions, guideline. Gender norms. Yeah. Norms. Cool? Because I've done the question 3 and 4 together. I've linked it back, made it relevant, and I've also talked about what the author's saying by showing it. So Lisa's announcement that being attracted is expected of her demonstrates that not only is she aware of the social rules that confine women, but also that she feels the need to conform to them. The phrasing of this statement with its inclusion of the word expected implies that Lisa does not agree with the pressure that is put on women to fit this idea of feminine perfection. This then implies that Hitchcock too believes this is an unfair and unrealistic expectation that puts pressure on women, an idea that certainly challenges the 1950s gender norms. Challenges 1950 gender norm? Norms, yeah. I was like, norms. So that is how I would recommend if you are somebody who really struggles with getting depth in your explanations, depth in your paragraphs, give them a try. Give those 4 questions a try. I think they're very useful. I think they're a goer. They might not be for you. That's okay too. But it certainly makes you think about how much can I get out of this? Because I could have just written 1 sentence to that. One very brief 1 line. But this gives it so much more depth and complexity. It shows so much more knowledge and understanding. Knowledge of the context, knowledge of the author, knowledge of the implications of particular words.
Do you reckon we can do like a battling of a paragraph for all 3 of them? Or do you have to narrow it down?
So I would probably do, for your SAC, I would say for your first paragraph, for your SAC, I would say I would do 3 evidence and explanations for my first paragraph. I'd try and get at least 2 for my second, and then maybe my third 2. For the exam, you're looking at shorter, so you're probably going 2, 2, 2. Yeah. But sometimes even, like the exam's different, so sometimes I would even say in the exam you might only write 2 paragraphs, but they're beefy as hell. If I wanted another piece of evidence to go with this, I'd probably want to find something outside of Lisa. I would probably choose something like torso. Oh, sorry. Yes, yeah, sorry, then you need a linked sentence, yeah. But a linked sentence is basically a topic sentence. Yeah, you just rewrite it. Questions, queries, concerns? Sorry this was very lecture-y today. Usually if we do a question, it's usually much more like group worky, but today was very lecture-y because I'm showing you how to do something. Pardon? You're conforming to my benevolent dictatorship that I'm running. It's benevolent though. It's okay. Like, I'm nice about it, but like, I'm in charge. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean,